Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey, everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Let's talk about Tesla. It's been driving a lot of people crazy. I do want to make a public video to kind of share my thoughts. Normally, I talk about Tesla in cooperation with this guy's charts, Danny Chang, who is my collaborator. We look at charts together, we share thoughts, and we try to find confluences. I generally make a video on Tesla as well as many other stocks like Palantir, Hims, Hood, Coin, and MicroStrategy, many other stocks. And I do this on a weekend with him. He gives me these charts that are, his own system. So I make these videos on behalf of him for his Patreon if you want to get access to that. They are available at his Patreon, some of which are also available on his X subscription as well, but most of them is going to be on his Patreon. If you want to check it out, feel free. If not, that's fine too. Depends on whether or not you find value on an analysis like I'm going to provide one here today. This is Danny's daily chart for Tesla. I'm going to go through his analysis, and I'm also going to go through majority of it's going to be my analysis here. You can see a couple things. It looks a little bit busy. It looks pretty colorful here. All you really need to know, really, do you have a bearish blue ribbon here? You have a bullish red ribbon here that tells you the trend. Sometimes they're a little bit delayed in terms of the trend flip here, but you have a lot of other information here too. You have all these different blue bars over here. They are different volume shelves that basically represents the price where the stock has been heavily traded. They generally can serve as very, very strong support level or resistance level, depending on price is above or below. On top of that, there's also a separate volume shelf levels over here where he calls them point of control, and these changes every day based on the whale volume shelf that he has. These are all proprietary system that he has here. Right off the bat, you can see that price had broke down underneath the red ribbon and it lost support there. As soon as it lost support, it came all the way down to the 270s and form a wick down underneath, but you got a very, very strong volume shelf support level here at around 285.3. Price to end up closing just slightly underneath that, around like 284 on Thursday, but on Friday we bounced off of it. So this is a very, very strong support level that actually works out really well. You also have a volume shelf support level here for his point of control. So these are actually some pretty decent support area that you can see. His system is more known for these kinds of red candle and yellow candle. Red candles are generally bullish signals, and it's generally followed by an uptrend. Yellow candle is a bearish signal. It could follow by either some sideways consolidation with opportunity cost, being built in here where price just does nothing, or it could be signifying a pretty significant downtrend here, which played out over here and is also playing out so far when it appeared on Friday. If you're one of those folks that like the system, then you can consider this bearish yellow signal a sell signal. You can consider this red candle over here a confirmation of a buy signal. And generally they work out pretty well. Sometimes when things are just really volatile and chop sideways, you get noise here. But when there's a trend, it is usually preceding the trend. So that's one thing to pay attention to. The other thing to pay attention to too, in addition to the red candle and the yellow candle, there is something called a volatility black hole. Now, the volatility black holes over here, Danny has backtracked this on many, many stocks before. And what he's seeing is that this works extremely well. What really seeing here with these volatility black hole is you have the top part of the black hole and you have the bottom part of the black hole. You can't really see the top part here, but that's okay. The bottom part of the black hole over here is 342. When you have the appearance of a volatility black hole, that basically means that volatility is coming. And it doesn't tell you which way. It could be up or it could be down. The yellow or the red candle can help guide you which way it's going to be. And generally what happens is if you have a candle that closes above the top of the range of this volatility black hole, then price might make a very volatile move to the upside. And if it closes below the volatility black hole range, then price can go very volatile to the downside. That had worked out because on Wednesday we closed underneath below the volatility black hole, and that led to a big giant plummet the next day all the way down to the volume shelf here as strong support. What Danny is seeing these volatility black hole is a pretty good signal that a very volatile move is going to happen. He generally sees this maybe upwards to around like 98% accuracy is what he says. I don't backtrack these things with him, but generally these volatility black hole here has served him as well as his Patreon members extremely well. So that's kind of what we're seeing here with the breakdown of the volatility black hole, yellow candle, close underneath the volatility black hole, plummet down, strong support level, very useful charts. You also have a couple other things here. Panel 2, the red light generally signifies more of a bullish signal here. Green light's generally a little bit more of a bearish. Sometimes you can have red light turn into green light preceding the presence of a bearish yellow candle here. So it's a little bit of a leading indicator. Sometimes you can have green light turning red here, and that can precede the presence of a bullish red candle here. So these are something pretty interesting to look at. Right now, the downtrend seems to be still pretty strong, but we've been going sideways over here. And I think that most likely we end up consolidating over here. The green light is going to get thinner and thinner, and I think that it's going to end up stabilizing, and we're going to be okay. The other thing to look at here on Danny's chart is this. When you have price getting a little bit too far from the mean, and the mean's going to be represented by the ribbon here. When things are a little bit too far away from the mean and a strong support level over here, it tends to do a mean retracement. So I think the next move is going to be maybe a little bit sideways and then up to retrace back to the mean. And what happens after the retracement is really going to be depending on the reaction when it gets to the mean. A lot of times it can end up being more than just retracement and flip a short-term bear trend here back into bull trend, and you can keep going up a lot higher. It really depends on the reaction whenever it ends up retracing back to the mean. Now, I think the next move, based on looking at this, because it's a little bit far away from the ribbon, sideways and up on the daily. That's my best prediction that I can come up with. Now, Danny's chart is also known for panel 3. Panel 3 tells you the whalish momentum. How much momentum do whales have when they're in? It doesn't tell you the exact percentage they're being held by whales or retail or anything like that, but it really tells you more like the momentum of whales versus retail. Momentum whales are usually being represented here by the red bars, and the momentum of the retail is generally represented by the green bar. The trend seemed to have been very, very bullish here for weeks with increasing whalish accumulation momentum and declining retail momentum here. And what you're seeing here is with the downtrend over here with price close below the volatility black hole, whales end up leaving. And so far you have some stabilization of that process, but there is a little bit of a disruption of the uptrend here that is very, very apparent. Stocks generally don't soar unless if you have at least like 50% of whale accumulation momentum. And it did end up going up a lot, but you have a hard time really breaking out here. So you end up having whale-ish momentum here just kind of going sideways over here for a while price gone up here on a little bit of a declining RSI, so a little bit of bearish divergence. I think this is exactly what's needed to cool down this bearish divergence. I think that the bearish divergence now has really been taken care of. However, a lot of momentum has been lost, both in terms of whalish momentum as well as some of the other momentum indicators that are being shown here. That will take some time to build up rather than it being like a V-shaped recovery, which I don't really necessarily expect here for Tesla. All right. I just want to go through the basics here. I'm not going to spend too much time here on the weekly to go through every single panel. On the weekly here, you did have a volatility black hole here, broke above. We did end up having the volatility break back above the blue ribbon here. But the volatility holder here has been played out. We ended up having a plummet down here, and price did not have to go to the 250s or 240 zone. We end up finding some kind of stabilization near the bottom of the blue ribbon. And we also find some stabilization around this big giant volume shelf level over here on the point of control. The entire time over the last 2 months has been up, and the bullish red light has been up. And this candle over here has really significantly cooled this down. So if we end up going sideways here, maybe we could develop a yellow candle as possible. However, looking at the daily, I do think that things would probably end up going sideways here and then retrace back to the mean. You might end up developing a yellow candle here, but I don't necessarily would like trust it because it does seem that this may be a little bit of an overreaction here on the daily. The wellish momentum here is still closer to about 75%, so there's still enough wellish momentum here on the weekly chart. And overall, the trend is just higher high and higher low, you know, so I'm not necessarily going to bet against Tesla stock here on the weekly time frame. And overall, this still looks like the red candle over here about 6 weeks ago is still in play until proven otherwise, even though there's a little bit of sign of a declining red light over here that could mean that we might be losing momentum here a little bit. But I still think that maybe more like down and then up kind of thing is kind of what I'm seeing here based on looking at these charts. What do I think? Well, I shared with you what I thought on Thursday. I was seeing a double bottom breakout and a back test when everybody is extremely freaked out on a single day when Tesla went down like 15%. It was going straight into a support zone over here, and guess what happened the next day? Next day we end up finding support and confirming support, right? So far this is still a relatively bullish structure because of the double bottom and a breakout and a back test. And the back test looks like it's holding. It's also not just holding the back test of a double bottom breakout, it's also holding the 0.382 log fib here. If you calculate the Fibonacci sequence from up top here in December 2024 all the way to the bottom in April 2025, that would be right at the 0.382 log fib where initially had a little bit of a false breakdown, but ended up getting closing above that on Friday. So this is not too bearish here based on what I'm seeing. It's just simply got rejected. Or 618 here couldn't hold and ended up just having to come back down and back test that area. And this is also a very confluent zone of support. Why? Because this is the daily Bollinger Band, and things generally don't extend too far above or too far below the Bollinger Band. And whenever things end up breaking underneath this 20-day moving average on Wednesday, it is completely reasonable for it to visit the low Bollinger Band over the next few days. And it did that in the day because it's Tesla. It's extremely volatile. Decided to break through below the low Bollinger Band, but on Friday closing back inside. So these are some pretty decent risk-reward ratio down here, despite of the news and the scares that you might hear. Another thing too is we did break above the daily Ichimoku cloud, and we're simply doing a back test of the daily Ichimoku cloud. This is not a bearish thing. Whenever you have resistance flipping into support, that generally is bullish. Looking at the weekly time frame, now we do have a 20-week moving average. Last week, I did make a video for Danny's members, and I did point out the gap here. It looks like it could fill around 300, and I did say that you have a 20-week moving average, and it was around 215 or 212 or something like that. But we do have a gravestone candle up here above, so instead of going right up to the upper Bollinger Band, it's getting stalled here and coming back down and trying to backtest a slightly negative sloping 20-week moving average is not unexpected. It went a little bit far further and quicker than I expected. I was expecting maybe a little bit more of like maybe around 300 or so. You could be finding some pretty decent support. Nope, decided just pushed right through it and went down to like the 270s. Well, what's down at the 270s? We also have a rising 50-week moving average and is finding support right there very, very beautifully to end the week. It closed about the 50-week moving average. So a lot of people got really super scared, super bearish. They think it's going to go down to $69 or whatever it is that they think, some made up number. We're finding support here so far, and so far it's holding until proven otherwise. It is also gotten rejected here by the kitchen, the red line up here about the Ichimoku cloud. Again, with a gravestone doji, you knew that things are going to come back and touch the cloud. I didn't know how far it's going to touch. Is it going to be like around 310 or something like that at the top of the cloud? At the bottom of the cloud down here, that's also possible, right? Bottom of the cloud here is it's ended up breaking through underneath, but ended up closing the week right back inside the cloud, tested the bottom, tested the Tenkan here on the blue line, and it's just basically just stuck in range. Couldn't break out at the top of the range, wick above, got everybody bullish. Nope, ended up getting rejected, came back down to the bottom of the range over here, wick down, getting everybody all bearish just within a matter of a week. That's what Tesla does to you. I was also making a video saying that how Tesla has been going up for quite some time, went up for about 7 or 8 weeks straight into a gravestone doji, and a retracement back down to close a gap here, or maybe testing some of the support level down here below would be not surprising. That's exactly what Tesla ended up doing, regardless of the news that are out there. Looking at the monthly, I really cannot be that bearish on a higher time frame because it's still above the 20-month moving average. You still came off of a tweezer bottom here in March and April. These are very, very strong bottoms, just like this is a very, very strong top. And we are still forming for the most part. This is a higher high here, and this is still a higher low, and we're just in the process of consolidation over here. If this is a bull trend and this is an inside candle here so far for the month, then it would favor further bullish continuation. That's generally how you look at these things. Upper Bollinger Band on the monthly here is expanding here a little bit. Lower Bollinger Band initially was kind of expanding down, but because we've got now the kind of consolidating sideways over here for the month of June, it kind of ended up contracting just a little bit. But eventually, I think overall trend with this kind of crazy volatility is expanding a Bollinger Band, and I think a Bollinger Band is going to end up being expanded and being challenged because we're still at the upper part of the monthly Bollinger Band here. Usually price likes to gravitate either to the top part or the bottom part. We're now closer to the top than the bottom. We're above the 20-month moving average. It's probably going to gravitate to the top, maybe even dragged up a Bollinger Band up on the way up. It also got rejected here on the monthly Tenkan here, which is not surprising. Now, we decided to come back down here and test some liquidity zone. We don't really have any Ichimoku monthly support here, but you can see where price ended up closing around 295 is a very important liquidity zone. You can see how it get rejected right there, how it got rejected right there, and we flipped those areas from resistance into support so far, right? Not a bearish thing. On April 2025, I also, when everybody was all scared because of the downtrend here, I also basically think that this is a big giant cup and this is the handle that's associated with that. And that doesn't mean that we're going to end up just V-shaping from here. There's usually some kind of volatility that you see within the handle before breaking up. This is April and this is June. We are experiencing that volatility to maybe break out from there, but it might take another month or two before we're able to break out. Consolidation and huge volatility for Tesla with plus or minus 15 to 20% days are normal. Looking at market symmetry here too on the monthly chart, I have this Gann square here. You can see whenever it breaks above an arc, back test it goes to the next arc, right? And whenever you end up breaking through an arc, back test it and it goes to the next arc here. We did not really back test over here on this arc. We just went straight up here to the next arc, got rejected, found support here at the horizontal Gann level. Trying to push through here for almost 3 years, finally able to do so, back tested with a tweezer bottom, consolidating sideways over here. Next stop around 700 up here. That's probably where the next stop is going to be. And if we're able to push through the 700 zone here, then you could potentially have a 4-digit Tesla, maybe sometime in 2026 or maybe even 2027. Based on market symmetry, I don't think it's just going to go up there just like that. Probably going to have consolidating sideways over here before going up, and you're going to have some resistance here around 700. Now, 700 is also roughly around the 1.414 log fib here. That could be a zone of strong resistance. Another strong zone of resistance is going to be right at the cups of when it starts becoming 4 figures, which is going to be a 1.618 here on the log fibs, right? Playing out in terms of where price is at right now, it is stuck between the 0.618 and the 0.886. And when it breaks above the 0.886, we have a more higher chance to really try to break to all-time highs and hit some of the targets up here above. $741 is roughly going to be around the horizontal line over here. And I would imagine $987 maybe is going to be somewhere over here whenever it ends up hitting the top arc up here. And we also did end up getting rejected here at 0.86 so far this month and came back almost backtest almost perfectly at 0.707 lock fib here. So far finding some pretty decent support over there. Again, trying to get, find support here at the horizontal zone right there where it was previously resistance. Now, a couple other things here too. Again, if you're going to want to use these charts here to trade, you can. I actually like to look at higher time frame, and so does Danny. We want to see how things look in terms of a higher time frame trend, and any lower time frame volatility generally is noise to us. But if you want to look at like a gravestone doji here, you're trying to sell, you're trying to buy back lower. Well, Danny's chart here show you a perfect support zone right around 285. If we would have bought that area, that I would argue that was actually a pretty decent buy there. Or if you end up buying at the bottom of the cloud here or at the tank in the blue line over here, I think that's a pretty decent buy. It did wick down below, and then when I was posting all these levels, everybody was like, it broke down. Well, it could be a wick. It could just be a wick. It could scare the crap out of you, grab liquidity, take out stop loss, and take out people's margins and margin call them. There's a lot of reason why something like this could happen. It did happen, but it ended up finding support here at the bottom of the cloud, and it ended up finding support here at the Tenkan. So that's the bottom of the range as far as I'm concerned. Could next week open under the Ichimoku cloud? Yes, it can. It is at risk for doing that, which is why I don't think we're going to V-shape out of here. I think we're going to end up maybe finding some support here and get stuck in a range here. Eventually, I think we break back above the cloud and go up higher. Unless if Monday, if there's like some kind of manufactured news that we end up opening with gap up on a daily and we end up opening inside the cloud here. That's possible, but it is at risk for breaking down underneath the cloud here next week. So we will see how Monday goes. Regardless, I find that the combined approach of Danny's chart as well as my chart is pretty powerful. I'm very happy about my collaboration with Danny Chang, my friend. And again, if you enjoy these videos, I generally try to do them on a weekly basis. They're not usually this long. I just want to take the first 10 minutes really diving deeper into his charts. So they're not usually this long, but I really thoroughly enjoy working with him. And if you enjoy these videos here on a weekly basis on a weekend, please consider checking out his Patreon. If not, that's okay. I do think that some of these higher targets up here will probably end up getting met sometime over the next 3 to 5 years. I do think these targets up here will be met sometime over the next 3 to 5 years. Maybe sooner, I don't know. But because it's been forming higher highs and higher lows, I think that this is a bull trend in the developing. And whenever liquidity comes in, I think Tesla is going to end up being pushed up above and go higher, despite of any crazy volatility and the loss of sanity on people on X and YouTube. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I hope you find value on this. Again, if you do enjoy these videos, consider following Danny and also consider checking this out. I'm going to put the link down below as well. All right, guys, take care. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.